Hello and good morning, everyone.
Good
Good
morning.
morning.
Sonia, can you please unmute? Okay, so our assignment is word recession during the pandemic, and today we will present that assignment. The student names, I'm the leader as Hantama, and our other co-members are Mirza Mansab Beg, Fahad Abbas, and Sonia. So word recession during the pandemic. What's happened? There was a great pandemic introduced before, and it is also rising now, which is called as COVID-19 pandemic. This pandemic takes the many lives of the people, and people from different countries suffer a lot during the pandemic. The pandemic harmed more than the world war, and the pandemic also has affected the economy of different countries. So the countries faced economic growth losses, and then the different countries implemented different plans and policies and to tackle this recession in the country or over the whole world. So what's happened? Every sector was impacted, likely education, health, industrial, social, etc. People were not allowed to go to school and work. So there was introduction of online classes and work from home and other many technologies. There was rapid growth in using online websites and online shopping too. But with the increase of the COVID, scientists and doctors were tackling the recession and improving the situation by helping each other. During the pandemic of COVID-19, every country was facing the problem which affected the different sectors, and there was occurrence of the different people. There was occurrence of different recession where the economic recession was also one of them. People from different countries lost their life, have to do their work from home. During that period, students were also affected in the education sector as there was close of schools, colleges, and institutions. But later, to overcome the problem of pandemic, many measures and policies were implemented. One is implementation of online classes for students and teachers. So here it is going to be discussed about the policies and measures that were undertaken by the government of Australia and RBA to tackle the world recession. The policies undertaken by government of Australia and RBA to tackle world recession are job keeper payment and cash flow for employees. In the job keeper payment introduction, it was actually introduced to provide income support to the employees of Australia. The government job keeper payment helps the people of Australia in getting jobs and also helps in business support that increase their incomes, and this was considered to be the most effective measure to tackle the world recession. The scheme was introduced on March 2020. The second policy that was undertaken by the government of Australia was cash flow for employees. The cash flow is also the measure of change in the economy of the country. If the cash flow is increased, then there will be an increase in the production too, which helps increase the economic growth of Australia, which was also the measure that was implemented by the government of Australia and RBA to tackle the recession. The next policies will be presented by Mirza Mansab Beg. Mirza Mansab Beg, please unmute.
Thank you, Hassan. Good morning, everyone. So I will further address the how Australian government has tackled the problems of economy due to COVID-19. And my point here, first point of which will I discuss, early release of superannuation. Superannuation is a person program of Australia, and during the pandemic session, people were facing many difficulties and problems. To overcome such programs, the government of Australia and RBA implement this early release of superannuation program so that people can take out their uh, pensions early for their hardship they felt. And the second point which I am going to address is the decrease of unemployment rate. Because of COVID, there was a lot of people got unemployed entire world, and the second option the Australian government have to take was the decrease of unemployment rate. To tackle the recession in the country or over the world, there was implemented the plan by the government of Australia, tried all efforts for decreasing the unemployment rate by offering different jobs for those who are unemployed, which helps in gaining income and which for their livelihood, and they can spend that money after working for jobs to spend on their families. This was the second term. And the third one was infrastructure simulation. You have heard the word simulation. Simulation means creating a copy of any infrastructure. The third step that Australian government took and RBA took, here RBA stand for Reserve Bank of Australia. Infrastructure stimulation. In the infrastructure stimulation, there is the spending of the infrastructure which creates different opportunities for the people, the job or work, so that there can be decrease in the unemployment rate, and also the country infrastructure was boosted, and people those got unemployed, they are now stable because of that step of Australian government. If I move ahead, the fourth step that I'm going to discuss here that has been taken by the Australian government, decrease in interest rate, because they decreased the interest rate and boosted the economy. As it is noticed that with the increase of the interest rate, there is a decrease in the demand and supply. So this measure was taken by the Reserve Bank of Australia, or RBA, to tackle the world recession during the pandemic of COVID-19. Due to the decrease in the interest rate, there was an increase in the demand, because the both were the alternative propagation, so that supply through which many businesses activities were held, and there was also an increase in the gross of the country. The gross profit is goes up, and the net profit is, and gross and profit even got comparatively good. Then the decrease in interest rate gave them a good results. The other point is monetary policy. They made a policy which was completely fitted to the every people, which was because of their strategy, the monetary policy becomes very successful. The monetary policy is implemented for affecting the economy, which helps in tackling the world recession. And the next point is unemployment. Because of COVID, every country got the unemployment ratio very high, especially those countries those were massively hit by the pandemic. As that was the major challenge for the Australian government to overcome the unemployment, as it was noticed and faced that there was a loss of jobs during the COVID-19 pandemic, which causes great economic crisis, and increase in the rate of unemployment rate and loss over the world. Australia was also one of them, but there was not that much impact in comparison to other countries. Australia losses were economic, as there was an increase in the unemployment rate, but with the above measures and policies, it was increase increase in the economic growth. So in that ways they, and the last point I am going to discuss of this section is inflation. The recession and inflation, because of demand and supply, the things got very expensive, especially the medicated things like masks and other kind of doses. The inflation sector was also impacted during the pandemic, as during the pandemic, as the price of goods decreased because of the COVID-19 in Australia. Australia, from the Reserve Bank of Australia, again there was an increase in the inflation rate in Australia after the measure were implemented. So the next point will be discussed by the Fahad. So I would request Fahad, please, would you like to discuss the next point, which is output level? Thank you.
Thank you, Mansur.
Hello everyone, good morning. My name is Fahad and today I present the topic output level. There was a great impact in other sectors like education, health, business and economic and so on. Likely there was no production of good for the industries, and business was also not occurring in Australia and other countries too during the pandemic. But with the measure and policies, there was the implementation of online classes and online transaction, which recovered those sectors. And then there was increase in the production of good, and businesses were again started with help in growth. The output level was firstly impacted, and then again with the measure it become good and better. The output level can be calculated in positive or negative. If there is a good potential increase of the economic of the country with the help of policies that was implemented, then there will be positive value of output level. Also, with these policies, there was a positive output level. Click next slide. Now we calculating the current equilibrium level of income in the given economy. Current equilibrium level of income for the given data where C is equal to 800 plus 0.8 YD, I is equal to 600, and G is equal to 1000, and X is equal to 0. YFE is equal to 15,000 is equal to AS. There is the use of formula of finding aggregate demand of sum C, I, G, and NX. Now we use the demand formula. AD is equal to C plus GI plus G plus NX. Now I put the value in this formula. AD is equal to 800 plus 0.8 YD plus 600 plus 1000 and plus 0. AD is equal to 2400 plus 0.8 YD. Next slide, please. As it know as at the equilibrium, AD is equal to AS. AS value is 15,000 and put in this 2400 plus 0.8 YD is equal to 15,000, and YD is equal to 15,000 minus 2400. 2400 other side is minus 2400 and divide by 0.8. YD is equal to 15,750. There is current equivalent level of income in this economy is $15,715 million. After finding of aggregate demand, here is again use of another process for finding equilibrium where there is notice the level of equilibrium. Aggregate demand is always equal to aggregate supply, so there is the equal of AD and actual output of expenditures. The process find YD calculating done where income to the economic is $15,750 million, which is also called a potential output. Please next slide. Calculating the size of output gap. To finding the size of output gap, where finding the output gap, there is the formula of potential output is detect from the actual output of expenditures. YFE here indicate the actual expenditure output. YD indicate the potential output, which is calculate in and in above slide, and after calculation there is a negative output. Output gap formula is equal to YFE minus YD. YF is means actual expenditure output, and YD means potential output, which calculate above. YF is value of 15,000 and YD value is 15,750. The output gap is equal to minus 750. So there is the negative output gap of $750 million currently. Next, present the Sonia.
Sonia, can you present the next slide? The AE diagram of the current
Yep.
situation of Australia as per the detail.
Yep.
Okay, go ahead.
Hi everyone. Australia and
Hi,
now
your internet is not good at the moment. Can you please start again?
I can't see your screen. Yeah, now I can see. Situation of the Australia as per the details. There's the of the diagram and the Y is showing the you can't hear me.
Yeah, I can hear
Yeah.
you now. Can you please start again?
Yeah, here I'm going to say so the AE diagram of current situation of Australia as per the details.
Okay, go ahead.
Are you hearing me now?
Yeah.
Yep.
Go ahead.
Y is showing Y is showing the actual employment and when there's a potential GDP and the real GDP. The real gap between the GDP is 15,750. The government of Australia needs to increase the spending of government expenditure G by $750 million to reach the full employment of YA. If the Australian government decide to close or stop the output gap, the expenditure by changing government spending via job keepers payment. The taxes expenditure should be decreased by $750 million in Australian government decide to close the output gap of the expenditure by changing taxes. And this can lead to the increase in the consumption expenditure, which is the C, and that can shift the curve of AD to the right and reach the level of the employment. As it is known, the taxes affect consumers negatively, which cause a fall in real income if taxes are increased. Uh, Are you hearing me, sir? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Next slide, please.
Done.
I have done with this the explanation.
Oh yeah, next slide is there.
Yeah.
It's the next slide.
Can you please finish it? I have done. Are you hearing me?
Yeah, then your next slide is there. The government of Australia need to increase the spending.
Yeah, I have done with this one. I have done with the explanation.
Okay.
Okay.
Next,
Next slide. Mirza Mansab Beg, you have to present the flow chart of the open market operation in the money
Thank you,
market.
Hassan. After monitoring closely everything, how Australian government tackle all these problems, I made this flow chart. And thank you for allowing me to discuss this flow chart. Actually, this flow chart has two parts. Team members, it has two parts. What is the main idea of this flow chart? Flow chart of open market operations in the money market. So in the above flow chart, there is illustrated the effects of the open market operations on the overnight money market. As open market operation is the kind of process where there is the buying and selling of bank securities, which is implemented by the Federal Bank or the Reserve Bank of Australia and other countries too, to affect the economy, maybe can increase or slow down the economy of the country. In open market operations, there can be two operations, buying and selling, and they have different effects. As we know that the buying has different effects, it could increase the demand, and selling has different, it could increase the supply. The above flowchart, there is demonstrated that if there is buying, if there is buying of securities, then there will be an increase of the money supply, and also there will be an increase of the bank reserves, and which will result in the reduction of the demonstrated that if that will result in the reduction of the federal funds rate. Likely, there is also demonstrated that if there is performed selling security operations, then there will be the opposite effect of from buying securities, where there will be a decrease in money supply and bank reserve, which will results in the decrease in federal funds rate in selling security operations. This way, the open market operations affect the money market. The all idea of this flowchart is to divide the money market and the open markets, how these both can affect the new steps taken by the Australian government. That's all from me. Thank you. Next one is, I think so, Fahad.
Now, the last slide I will present the last slide. Well, the impacts of change in cash rate on other interest rates. So what are the impacts of change in cash rate on other interest rates? If the Reserve Bank of Australia changes the cash rate, then there will be a big impact on other rates like interest rates, exchange rate, and inflation rate. If there is a lower or decrease in the cash rate, then there will also be a decrease in the interest rate, which is a great impact on the country, as there will be fewer investors in Australia, which causes an increase in demand and supply, and there will be a rise in exporting goods from foreign. Due to the change in the cash rate, there will also be a decrease in the exchange rate of the currency in Australia due to decrease in the interest rate of Australia. And also there will be an increase in the inflation rate due to the decrease or lower of the exchange rate in Australia, and the prices of the goods will be expensive while exporting the goods from other countries, which will result in economic loss for Australia if there is a change in the cash rate. There are some of the impacts that occur on the other rate of Australia if there is a decrease in the cash rate. But if there is an increase in the cash rate, then the impacts will be opposite from the mentioned above. Likely, if the cash rate increases, the interest rate increases, and the people of Australia will be focused on more involved in earning income in place of spending those. And also there will be an increase in the rise of the exchange rate, which will minimize the inflation rate in Australia. With the increase in the interest rate and the exchange rate, the currency will rise in comparison with the other countries, and there will be more investor, which will increase the business activities, and as a result, the economy will be gross gain. Thank you everyone for participating in this presentation. And if there are any questions from anybody, so we can discuss it now regarding any slide.
No,
Thank you,
that's-
thank you, Hassan, for arranging arranging this meeting. Thank you.
So thank you everyone. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Goodbye. See you.
Goodbye.
Bye
See
bye.
you.
See you.